Wano card immediately. So let's say I already have an Okiku on the board and I'm at 4 Don or whatever. I can activate my leader's activate main, and then the next time I play a land of Wano, it'll cost 1 less as long as it costs 3 or more. Then I can play a Momo and find another Okiku. Let's say I already and play that Okiku for 2 instead of 3, even though I already have 2 characters on the board, simply because of how the leader's effect works. So it's so versatile. It lends itself very well to a lot of skill intensive plays, and I just really love the deck. So, Chesko, I know you've gotten a good bit of practice in with Kinnemon as well. How are you feeling moving into this meta, like with this leader in general? Like, what are your favorite interactions about it?
It's really good. Go ahead, Steven.
For you guys actually just watching, sorry, we thought we hit live, but we didn't, so we clipped a little bit there, but we're just really talking about the Kinnemon leader right now. So go ahead, Chesko. Sorry about
that. Okay, so to respond to Subway, yes. I think it's a lot like Kid, right? So you're gonna see Kid and Kinnemon decks being like maybe 5 card differences, right? You know what I mean? And that's like, oh, it just feels like the same deck again. The leader provides like a very significant difference in a faster meta. So the coolest thing about Kinnemon is that it's just a little faster. Like playing Kiku on turn 1 going second, playing Raizo on turn 1 going second. Then the next turn, I can play Momo, crack Momo's effect, and now I immediately get to swing with Raizo to draw a card. That's just very powerful. Now going first, it's still not bad. Again, if we take a look at Momo, right? Like play Momo on 1, I have 1 Don. The following turn, I have 3 Don. I can still crack Momo, find my Kiku, use my leader effect, and I'll play my Kiku for 3. So you're just in a little bit of a faster meta. You're just getting more. It might be a little bit harder to close out games because you are lacking the Kid effect of swing leader, and that is, you're going to notice that at first is like very detrimental, but I just think it's just kind of the way the meta has flown. We need to be faster. So we can't, and we also cannot just turtle shell behind the 8-drop anymore. I think a lot of Kinnemon players are I've cut the 8-drop Kid. I do not think it is as safe as it used to be. You say you play 1?
I play 1.
Okay, and now in the mirror match, it's going to be as good as it always was. You know what I mean? Now, at least now we have Odin to attack it, which is just like, well, Odin is very good at attacking 8-drop Kid, but against like the new introduction of red and black has just really like taken the power of bombs off of the table, because like it would just like they have so much removal. Like it's very easy for black to remove anything, not just an 8-drop, but like anything. They can go play 10-drop Kuzan, play 5-drop Suzuki. That kills every single card in the game, right? They can go, red can go still Otama Jet Pistol like they always could. Like there's no difference. But what red has now is cards like Squard, where Squard is neg 4 on something. And neg 4 is huge because my guy's only 8, and now it's a 4K. It dies to literally everything. Red, has Gordon is going to be played now a lot more, and Gordon negs something for 3. So it's just like the strategy has changed. We want to play more cards like Yamato that have big bodies but direct impacts on the board the turn they're played. And then we want to back that up with stuff like X-Drake and Odin, who X-Drake is coming down and immediately getting an effect. Odin might not come to it comes down. If they clear it, it replaces itself. And then I still like 7-drop Kid. We're going to talk about Basil Hawkins a lot. So I just think we just want our cards to do more faster, is if that's what I can end the statement with.
All right. Now, Steven, I know you are an avid, die-hard Eustace Kid fan. I don't think you would ever refer to him as useless mid. So tell me something.
My soul.
So tell me, when you look at this Kinnemon leader, do you think you would switch to Kinnemon, or do you think you would still stay to Kid, and why?
Well, I can make concessions for the sake of this episode is Kinnemon. So I think I can stay focused on saying that Kinnemon is definitely a playable leader. I do personally hold that I'm going to be sticking with Kid. I think Kinnemon has some issues that Kid solves. especially as the American meta flushes out and we become more we shift less into the hyper aggro meta that Japan sees, and we have more like control mirror matches that we're typically seeing out of set one. I think Kid is going to do a lot better there, but sticking with Kinnemon, it plays to the strengths that Green is upgrading to. And the biggest one being Yamato. You get to do a lot of shenanigans with Momonosuke that Kid could not do in set one. And I think that's a really big reason to upgrade to Kinnemon, is just for the Land of Wano cards that you're going to be upgrading your deck with. The biggest one being Yamato. That thing is a threat. Yamato is a menace. I don't know if you guys are fully aware of how good that card is. Yamato being a 6K for what is essentially 3 Dawn, so you can play Yamato on turn 2. You're going to be tapping down the small early creatures your opponent plays, but it's going to give you the versatility in the game to go the distance in the mid game, and then you'll probably have a 6K body going into the late game too. So I think for Yamato, Kinnemon is actually like a really, really good choice right now.
I agree. And you know what? That segues us very nicely into the card options that Kinnemon has from the new set. There's only about 4 or 5 realistic options that the deck can actually play. So why don't we actually switch that picture over to Yamato, the one that you just talked about? Definitely, I would have to agree with you. Yamato is the best tool that was given to Kinnemon. So Yamato is just such a crazy green staple, right? Moving forward, I think you're going to see this in, if a green deck can play it, a green deck will play it. It being a 4/6, it's got vanilla stat lines, and at the cost of the counter power, you get to rest a 6-drop. My
Yeah.
goodness, there is no way to understate the power of that. That rests a king. That rests Basil Hawkins. That rests anything 6 or less is like all of your opponent's mid-game threats. Down it goes. So if you're playing this in combination with Basil Hawkins or in combination with a 7-drop Kid, like, you're probably clearing anything that you need to clear, or your opponent's going to burn 2 to 3 cards out of their hand to keep it alive. And that's just wild. The fact that Momo can find this card off the top of your deck is insane. And the fact that your turn 2 can be leader effect, this costs 3, tap one of your opponent's cards, put one under your Kiku, attack the card you just rested, rest another one, then swing on that other one with your leader. It allows Kinemon to just starve the opponent out of resources. The things that we used to do to Zoro decks, you're now doing to every deck.
Yeah.
Your opponent just gets no resources until it's time. And your
That's
leader,
the thing, right? Yamato tapping down a 6-drop means that your opponent can't play anything that's safe unless they're playing their bombs. And that's really oppressive. Like, take for instance, I'm trying to play Ivankov in the meta, and I'm jamming it a lot against Kinnemon because I think if I can't beat Kinnemon, then I really can't play the deck. But often what you want to do is play these 4-drops, play these 6-drop Luffys, whatever. And nothing is safe. Your opponent can Izo or Yamato every card unless you're playing the big boys, which costs a lot of your turn anyways. But it's like, I don't even have to... I feel like I get punished if I attack. I feel like if I get punished if I just sit on my cards. And Yamato is one of those super oppressive cards. Hell yeah, that's really pretty.
absolutely,
but yeah, I mean,
is.
the addition of Yamato, it's so oppressive.
Yeah. And Yamato itself is a boss monster, which is probably the coolest thing about it. Like, being a 4/6, it's a mid-game boss monster.
Yeah.
It taps down your opponent's threats. It is a threat itself. Being cost of 4 means that it is vulnerable. It's vulnerable to Punk Gibson. It's vulnerable to a 6-drop King. But we're coming out of a meta where 3-drops were more important than 4-drops, and so removal really centered around 3-drops. And we're going into a meta where, again, removal is going to center around 5K or less battle cards, or 3 cost or less, unless you go specifically up against like black. And then Yamato is safe in a lot of instances. Even in the mirror match as a 6K, it's kind of hard to get extra Dawn on your leader. So the Yamato has to just get attacked by your opponent's Yamatos unless they have a Basil. And so you end up with situations where, kind of like we used to see kaiju fighting, 8-drop versus 8-drop, who's going to run out of resources first? You kind of see that exchange occur with Yamatos now, which is very interesting to be a part of and to play. So, Cheska, what are your thoughts on Yamato? You think best boss monster in green or what?
I mean, she's just really good. It's hard to say more than you guys already said. Yeah, bro. I mean, like her stat line is like just amazing. Like 4-6 is a good stat line. The fact that she's sometimes a 3-6 is like really amazing, and then like her effect is amazing. So like everything about this card is good. It doesn't even matter that you can't counter with it because you're gonna play every copy of your motto you see throughout a game. You're gonna play it. Like if you're in a situation where like I just need to slam something on the board for presence, okay, she's still good. If we're in a situation like you said where okay, they have just anything on the board, okay, I'm gonna Yamato, and that's like, you know, most of the card pool is actually under 6. You know what I mean? Like the only thing above 6 are the boss monsters, and most people play more normal cards than boss cards. So it's just like this hits most of the card pool realistically. And it's just easy to attack with 7. It's 1 Dawn, swing for 7. Okay, cool. Really good at attacking up because it doesn't take that much Dawn to make her an 8. Really good at attacking down because she's already a 6. So it's just a good card. I think this is the main reason you consider Kinnemon over Kid, because Kid can also play this card, but Kinnemon plays it better, and that's what we want in this meta. Like I said, we want things that do more for less, and this does a lot more for a little bit less.
Yep.
And that's just it's big. You know, 4 is.
I
like
want to circle
rough,
back
right?
to. I want to circle back to you saying that you cut 8-drop Kid, because I do think that like that's an important statement. Especially when you're talking about like cards that cost more than 6 Dawn. Playing Kazuki Odin is so tempting. Sublet, why do you still play 1 Kid?
Well, why don't we talk about Odin then? Because the next segue would be into Odin, right? The only other really standout card that was given to green in this set is Kazuki Odin. Odin is Kid leader on a character card, and when it dies, it summons Okiku from your deck. That's, oh my gosh.
And you're not discarding a card to use its ability.
And you're not discarding a card. Yeah, most of the time, the way you're using this card is your leader can actually make this cost 7. So if you go first, the ideal thing is to play this when you're on 7 Dawn, and then your opponent is just very, very concerned about how the rest of the game is going to go. And then you attack with it every turn. You rest 3 Dawn, switch it to active mode, and then just leave it in active mode. And your opponent is just, I don't know what to do about that. Half of the time, you can attack with it again, and if they kill it, Okiku comes down, which is even strong by itself. And in Kaido, for example, this really punishes the 10-drop in both directions. If it's on the board when they 10-drop, you get a Kiku. And if it's not on the board when they 10-drop, you play it next turn in response to their 10-drop.
And they probably lose.
And they probably lose. So this card, clearly a standout card. I think it's better than the 7-drop. I think it's better than the 8-drop, just because there is no situation where this card is a bad card, except a situation where you can't play it. Like, that's it.
Right.
Like anytime I have this card in my hand.
Yeah.
Like an 8-drop, for example, there are situations where it just doesn't do anything. And those situations are when I have no cards in my hand.
Yeah.
There are situations where the 7-drop doesn't do anything. And that's like against blue, for example, or any deck that interacts with 7-cost cards favorably. Yeah. This card doesn't suffer from either of those. And so I play 3 of it, but I still play 1 Kid. And the reason, I just do. I'm testing.
No reason behind it.
Set 2 literally just came out in the pre-release this past weekend. So I'm still testing it. The green Kid is more of a meta call. I think it's very important in the green mirror match. Odin does attack it favorably, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad card. And I think that you can still wall up behind it. Yeah. And from what I have seen, the card buys me 2 or 3 turns. When you have an 8-drop Kid and Odin, my goodness. You can swing twice with the Odin now without any fear of anything happening. Now your opponent has to get through the 8-drop. And then if they want to spend extra resources after that to get through the Odin, just for you to get a Kiku, it's just, it's insane at that point. And so you could, if your game plan is to starve your opponent out, the 8-drop really helps you kind of set up that Exodia board. Your opponent just can't do anything.
Oh yeah, it's really punishing for the opponent. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that 8-drop Kid isn't bad. I don't like saying that this. I don't like saying Odin is better than, and then trying to compare it to a card that doesn't do anything similar to it. I think they're both 8-drops, and they do kind of both fill the same spot, but that's about where the comparisons end. I like framing it more of it's a meta call, because I think you're correct. And I do think that later in the format, maybe even like a month from now, as regionals start up in earnest, I think that Kazuki Odin gets a little bit worse. I think the 8-drop Kid gets a little bit better. Certainly that doesn't mean we're going to cut Odins out of the deck. I think you're going to want to still see 2 of those, but you might also start throwing in like 1 or 2 8-drop Kids to kind of play the mirror match better.
Well, I think no, I was just gonna say I think 8-drop Kid scales based on how many mirror matches you play.
Yes.
If you play again, and this is something we can talk about, where it's like we've said before, you just never know what you're gonna play in a day. It doesn't matter, like, okay, X percentage of the room is red, and I play against a bunch of black and purple. Like, well, how did that happen? I don't know. If I go into a tournament and I play 4 Kinnemon mirror matches, 8-drop is gonna get a lot of mileage. Now, if I play against a bunch of black decks, it's like nothing really, like everything is gonna get removed, so it's whatever, you know what I mean? And it's just like, that's just kind of the nature of that color. That identity is really good at removal, and you know, they can just play cards that remove my cards. It's whatever. So in that scenario, it doesn't matter whether it's 7-drop Basil Hawkins, 8-drop, or Odin, it's all gonna get removed, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to circle back real quick on what you said about your 8-drops being meta dependent. I think that the number of Odins you play is meta dependent, but he's always in the deck. I think that 8-drop Kid, his existence in the deck is meta dependent.
Yeah, because I agree with that.
Too much Zoro, too much speed, then at least Odin is a 7-drop in Kinnemon. Whereas in the 8-drop is always an 8-drop, and I probably can't defend it. It might just be a blocker at that point that just can't get visted. Which, I mean, if it has to be, it has to be. But so
I think we see that. I think that, you know, it's so hard to play the 8-drop, and that's actually why I was asking you why you were thinking about playing 8-drop Kid even as a 1-up, because starting the meta off, it, you know, 8-drop Kid is pressured by Odin. It's pressured by Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, the 9-drop. It's also pressured by Ace. Oh my God, Ace is going to pressure that card so much.
Well, everything is
just black
better.
As a whole,
Yeah, everything's better at attacking it now, right? So like you said, Ace, and then if they have Moby Dick, it's like, well, everything they have is minimum 7 plus, and it's just like everything is better at attacking into 8 now. Cheap blockers are less good because of cards like Vista, and so it's just like this card becomes much harder to protect in the larger meta, and then, you know, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's really good against green, really good against blue, and bad against most other things, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, this is the next card I was actually going to bring up.
Yeah, what do you guys think of Kazuki Toki?
So Toki actually goes in the deck now, and there's a reason for this. We didn't mention Yamato's third effect. You see, Yamato's first effect is to Yamato's first effect is to rest a card. Yamato's second effect is to just be gigantic. Yamato's third effect is to be considered Kazuki Odin. This card that Steven has up on the screen, Kazuki Toki, is a 1-cost blocker, but it's only a blocker if Odin is on the board. If you have Odin as a character on the board, then Toki is a blocker. Otherwise, you counter with it. This is a Beige with counter power, and that's very important. It's also a blocker that your Momo can find. So this card actually has a lot of utility, just kind of straight up replacing Beige.
Yeah, it's what's transitioning you out of supernovas. Yeah, this card replaces the Beige, and it helps your Momonosuke become more consistent, which is unnecessary because Yamato already does that. But yeah, and it has counter power.
Yeah. No, I agree, right? Like this one drops are a lot weaker now. Really pretty much because of Vista and then other effects that also are good at killing chumps. But Vista is the number one thing that's going to come to your mind. And so your one drops are just less valuable now. One drop blockers specifically. And so the problem with Beige is that he doesn't have a backup plan. You have to play him and then he's just going to die. The cool thing about Toki is I can just hold her in my hand and I can counter with her. So it's a no-brainer, right? If I don't have an Odin, she still has counter power. Whereas like Beige is always a blocker, but he also is going to die a lot. And even in the mirror match, again, everything rests something now on play. Like there's so many resters in play now. Like Beige probably will not block. And it's just like you want a Beige with a backup plan. So we're playing Toki. Like it is what it is.
Absolutely. Now, there are 2 other cards that can go in the deck. Whether they do or don't, it's kind of like a flex spot. And we'll go ahead and start with the new Nico Mamushi. So Nico Mamushi has gotten a bit of an upgrade. This is his Werecat form. So yeah, it's a 3/4 blocker. No counter power, which is harsh. You're not going to play 4 of this card in your deck. Unless the meta just is Vista, like Vista, 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 and you have no choice but to have this blocker. Being a 4 cost means he does play around Vista, so he's very good into your red matchups. And Land of Wano means that your leader can play him for 2, so a 2 cost 4K blocker is pretty good. And he's a 3 cost, which matters immensely because Odin has to get a 3 cost. And so there are situations that come up where your opponent clears your Odin and you need a blocker. This actually happened to me at one of the pre-release events this weekend. I was playing against Kaido. I have no life left. I've got board with blockers and an Odin on it. My opponent is forced to play the 10 drop, clearing my board. I have no counter power in my hand, so I have to get a blocker to block his leader attack or I lose the game. And luckily I had the Nico to block that attack. And then I was able to reestablish the next turn and win. So it's kind of like a toolbox card. You could very easily not play this card and play more copies of Punk Gibson or play copies of Free Drop Killer. It's a flex spot. It's just something neat that we got. It's a tool for your use if you really want it. Steven, what do you think about this?
I mean, I like the idea of you putting a 1-of in your deck to grab off of Odin.
I play 2.
I don't. I'm sorry. What did you say?
I play 2.
Oh, okay. Well, I do think that's kind of high for what this card is. You know, and I could see people playing it. I could see people not playing it. Personally, I don't think it's strong enough to make the deck list. I think the deck list is already got a lot of really powerful characters in it already. But it does depend kind of what am I playing against? What is my meta? Maybe this card is actually pretty good, especially if they kill your Odin. And I will say, just off of the, just from killing the Pacifista engine against blue in set 1, anytime you attack a character and they put another character out, it's annoying and makes you feel like you wasted your turn. So I don't know how often you're going to grab Nico Mamushi over Raizo or Okiku, but, you know, it's in the deck.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Jessica?
Yeah, it's a flex spot. I mean, it has utility. The cool thing about One Piece is that we're often seeing more cards through Momo type effects or Bonnie type effects. So we can just ignore this and put it at the bottom of our deck, and that way my Odin always has the option of drawing this, of playing this card from the deck. I wouldn't be opposed. I've gone back and forth with it. Like you said, yeah, it's good against Vista because it doesn't die on its own. 4K we're gonna see is this whole new threshold where we're gonna start valuing cards with 4K or more power a lot higher than we did in set 1 for those exact reasons. And then if I exactly like you said, sometimes you're gonna want a blocker off of Odin. Being a 2 cost 4K is fine stats. That's vanilla stats, you know what I mean? And then it has blockers, so it's it's a flex card, yeah.
I just don't like filling up the deck with 3 mana or 3 Don 4K cards because I do think we're going to be attacking into Whitebeard a lot at the start of the meta, probably all the way through, to be honest. And when you spend your turn playing a 4K, and I know you're not trying to lead on Nikomamushi, but these are the cards that you end up drawing in round 7, and it's super important that you win. That's unfortunate. You're trying to attack into Whitebeard that way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this card serves a specific purpose. I expected a lot of Zoro. I expected a lot of Vista, and so that's why I play 2 of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the point, and it did what it needed to do. I played against a Whitebeard who had 3 Vistas in his hand. They all were countered with because I just didn't have any targets for him. This blocker kind of just lived on the board rent free for a little bit, and it blocked an attack that mattered. So
yeah,
I mean,
we talked about this before the stream started, but you build your deck differently for a 5-person event than you do for a 36-person event, and of course your deck list looks different from 36 to 512, like we see at like Treasure Cups. Yeah. So, it's like what event are you going into? What do you expect to play against? This is a toolbox card for sure, and a very neat tool to have picked up, out of set 2.
All right, and then the last card out of the new set, truly better than Beppo, is Carrot.
Oh god.
Carrot is, of course, a card with words on it, I'm sure. It's just a 2K.
The new 2K.
It's not even a Land of Wano. Like, it's just a 2K. You play this or 2K. Beppo or a better card. But it's another 2K for the deck. So cool.
It's a 4-mana 5K. There will be situations where
it's a 5/5. It's not even a 4-mana 5K.
No, at the end of your turn, you're untapping 1, so I'm considering.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
So, I mean,
you play this over Beppo because it's a threat when you top deck it.
Yes,
exactly.
Like if I'm in a position where I'm losing and I have to play Beppo, I'm like, oh, I still lose. If I'm in a position where I have to develop something, I would rather develop this. And of course, it's there's no other searchable 2Ks. We're playing every 2K that's searchable. We're already playing. So if we want to increase the 2K count in our deck, we have to play this, which is the best option. I do agree. I think I'm on like 2 Carrot. I was on like 2 Beppo in set 1. Now I'm on 2 Carrot. It's the same shit. Like, I like this card.
Absolutely. Okay. And so those are the new cards that the deck gets, and then it basically plays all the same things as Kid.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about matchups. Mm-hmm. Matchups you want to see as Kinnemon and matchups that you don't want to see. And we've kind of alluded to this already. The big matchups that you don't want to see are like black and purple. And the reason is because, boy, they just kill everything you have. Kinnemon has a very low curve compared to those decks, and so they don't even have to try all that hard to remove your stuff. 10-drop Kazan just comes down and just clears Yamato for free. It's pretty crazy. And a lot of that card right there. It's crazy the amount of removal that they have. This Kuzan plus Sakazuki clears anything in your deck. They don't care about clearing your Odin, because if they have the Kuzan on the board, then they can clear that 0-cost card for free too if they really want to.
All right, let me note that Kuzan plus Sakazuki can clear anything in any deck.
Yeah, it can clear anything. But the fact that it clears your Odin and then they still have Dawn left up to clear the thing Odin gets, there's no deck, like a standing Odin, there's no deck that can very easily clear Odin and the thing that it summons, which is wild, except for black. And that is what makes this a very difficult match, is that they just kind of clear all your stuff. And
they're getting good value. Yeah, I mean this is a matchup where the 4-drop Kazan matters a lot, because you play that, you get to draw a card. Their 5 Borsellino comes in, he's a 6K, so it's difficult for you to attack that with your Okikus or whatever. I mean, obviously Yamato is still being Yamato in that matchup too. But Black's value actually matters a lot in this matchup, where maybe in some other matchups it doesn't matter quite as much.
Absolutely. And then purple is rough because, again, they have removal. 7-drop King doesn't do as well anymore because most of your things are 3-drops. But 6-drop King now just has the best target in the entire game, Yamato.
Yeah.
Which just, whoo, boy, that feels great. I guess Kazan might also be a really good target for it. But
Yeah.
so Kaido is a little rough for you because they just have removal. Removal is key that you just can't interact with. Kinnemon is very good at protecting its cards through attacks. It is not very good at protecting its cards through anything else. And Kaido also has the new film card, the 6-cost 7k that just can't be KO'd by battle. And so once that's on the board, it's just on the board. And there's nothing you can, there's not a single answer
What
in
is
your
that
entire
card
deck
called?
for it.
Shiki.
What is it?
Shiki.
What is it?
Shiki.
Yeah,
This
Shiki.
guy?
Yeah, this guy.
Oh, if you have okay,
so once-
yeah. This is sweet.
Yeah.
I like that. I know this is
Yeah,
not,
so once
not
this
the
guy's-
purple episode, but this card is cool.
This would be like the
Yeah.
Omega sideboard against green because they can't remove it. Like there's nothing that kills this, so you just play it and then it stays on the
Yeah.
field for the rest of the game.
And 7k
Absolutely.
attacker
So-
is brutal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, these kinds of things make it a little difficult for Kinnemon to deal with. Also, natural 7Ks are kind of hard for Kinnemon because you don't have as much counter power as you used to. So, Kings and this thing, the natural 7Ks, they just put in a lot of work. So, those two decks are pretty hard for Kinnemon to handle. But easier decks for Kinnemon to handle are decks like Blue is very easy for Kinnemon.
Oh my
Red
god, I know.
is pretty favored for Kinnemon. It's still, dice roll dependent. If Kinnemon gets to go second in that matchup, it feels pretty free. If Kinnemon goes first, it can be a little bit of a struggle. But red and blue is what you want to see as Kinnemon.
Or even
Purple and black is what you don't want to see as Kinnemon. Law is pretty easy for Kinnemon because you just tap all their stuff down.
Really hard for them to establish that 5 board now.
They have to build all 5 at the same time. They really
Yeah.
don't have the option.
if
to
I
do anything
recall
else.
from set 1, that's kind of what they were already doing against Kid was, in a single turn, okay, I dropped 3 of my 1-drops and now I get to use my
Mhm.
ability. Because
Yeah.
I have 10 Dawn. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much of that matchup's actually going to change, but
So that means they're doing it in a later turn, right? So it's just not a starting.
Yeah.
And then
sure.
we have
and also like
Yeah.
in set 1, they were kind of play Law and sit behind it. Now you
Yeah.
can't do that because Yamato actually attacks that.
Yeah.
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 And
We can actually get rid of their laws because we can play Yamato to rest it. Now it becomes a
Rest
target.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Also,
it's-
our curve is a little lower. We're not relying on 7 and 8 drops to win the game now. We have 4 drops that can win the game.
Yeah.
And so if Law takes 2 extra turns to establish the board, then we've run away with the board at that point, which is pretty important.
very true.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, those are kind of the matchups that you could expect how things can go. Now, Whitebeard is an interesting one. As Kinnemon, Whitebeard kind of just gets to do whatever he wants for a little bit. You just don't attack him. You focus on all of his character cards like you do with most matchups, but Whitebeard can't be starved. So Whitebeard still gets that life, and there comes a point in the game where you need to kind of start attacking the leader,
Yeah.
and it's not that easy to do after a certain point because of the 9 drop. So Whitebeard can be a little difficult for
Which
Kinnemon,
white drop?
but not impossible.
The alt art, of course, right? That
Yeah,
was already-
Yes, the 1.5 nipple artwork is the
You
one
do-
that really the
It's like
important one.
one. Yeah, it's like right at the halfway point, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
I'll
it's
give you
1.5 nips.
I wanted to be
Absolutely.
contrarian
He's
and
definitely-
say, 3/4 nipple, but no, that's at the halfway point.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean I agree with everything Sybil just said. Whitebeard is like you can't
White
just,
mirror.
White mirror, yeah. So Whitebeard, you can't just like, okay, play card, and I'm gonna expect my card to actually do something. It's like, no, I need this card to do something now, and then like we have to clear Marco. Like their card's insane, right? We got to get rid of Marco. So our Yamato has to come down as soon as we see a Marco, and we have to focus down that Marco. Whether if it can like revive itself or not, that's like probably changing your game plan, but whatever. If they have like an Atmos, which is the 4/6 vanilla, then we want something like X-Drake because we just get a free clear on Atmos, and that card is going to attack. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
And then of course Punk Gibson is good because it rests Marco. Like it's just another green card that we're going to be playing.
You know what's really good at attacking Marco?
Yeah.
Basil Hawkins.
There you go. Well, sure.
No, it's
yeah, Basil Hawkins is really good because if they revive it, you just kill it again, and then they have to revive it again, and now they're out 2 cards in their hand, and it's like, all right.
But then
cool.
you have to defend your Basil Hawkins because you tapped it twice. And...
He's gonna die anyway. So this is one of the more contentious cards. Yes, it's going to die. This is one of the more contentious cards that me and Subbit have been arguing about. I just really wish there was a sideboard in this game so that we could just side deck 4 Basil Hawkins and call it a day. If I'm playing a bunch of mirror matches, I want this card in my deck, and I think it's going to depend on what the American meta like decides to go into, right? If Americans are like, okay, we're going to play a lot of red decks and a lot of black decks, I don't think Basil is as good as it used to be. If America is like, we're going to play a bunch of green decks still, and we're going to play Law still, then Basil is as good as he always was, because against black, this card dies immediately without doing anything. Against Whitebeard, this card dies immediately without doing anything. Against Zoro, guess what? The same shit. Same exact thing every time. It's going to die almost as soon as you play it, and that's it.
I don't agree with Basil dying against Whitebeard that quickly.
Oh, really? You've never gotten Squad Visted before? Like, they just play 2 cards and it dies. Like,
yeah, 7 Dawn, isn't it, or 6 Dawn or something like that?
That's
their whole turn.
That's a 6 Dawn. That's a 6 Dawn play that establishes them 2 characters that gets rid of the character that you spent your turn playing.
But and this is the important thing to realize against red, is that Kiku is just as much a threat as the Basil is, and so a lot of their removal has already been used on the Kiku you played 2 turns sooner. So most of the time your Basil is not just Windmill Slam. Your Basil is in response to them using removal. And then, yeah, you're right, they've got characters established. Go ahead, turn them sideways.
Isn't there a miniature Basil Hawkins out of set 2?
That is a black card. Yes, there is a little Basil Hawkins.
I thought that was another green card, but yeah, I guess it is. What's it called?
She's a 3/4. I have one right here actually. She's a 3/4.
Whip it out, Daddy.
She's like, yeah, here you go. Isuka. Isuka. She's a 3/4 Dawn 1 once per turn. When this character battles and KOs a character, set it to active.
What is that?
Much worse. Isuka, Isuka.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But yeah,
I wanted to read it.
Anyway, it's okay. Anyway, but no, you don't just slam Basil. Yeah, of course Basil's gonna get jet pistoled, or he's gonna get Squidwarded into Vista like that. Yeah, it happens. But like that's why Kiku exists. Kiku will act as a magnet in the early game for the removal, and when that happens, that's when you have Basil to follow it up.
Sure. I mean, we're just playing One Piece, right? I had 2 characters. My opponent only had 1 removal. Like that. Now we're just playing One Piece.
Basil is not a single removal. Basil is a 2-card combo because most Whitebeard decks don't even run Jet Pistol.
Right, and then against black,
it's always
just
a
Sakazuki.
Yeah. Against black, I mean, I got nothing to say there. Okay? Kid dies against black. I literally have nothing to say. Yeah. But against Whitebeard, which is what I'm talking about right now, Whitebeard can't play Sakazuki. He's still upset about what happened to Ace, so there's no Sakazukis allowed in the deck. No Ace in the holes there.
For one reason or another,
I mean, I do think early on we are going to see a lot of Smoker.
I just think he's just way more vulnerable now. Again, like we're at the point where we can't just hide behind a card anymore. So even in the mirror match, right? Like let's take it all the way back to limited deck battle, right? Basil Hawkins, probably the best card in limited deck battle in the mirror match, right? But that Straw Sword was so good because you could devote a bunch of resources to just killing your opponent's Hawkins on play, right? So now we're at the point where, okay, now Yamato can rest Basil and we can attack it. And it's like, it's just more vulnerable. I don't know what to tell you, you know what I mean?
Sure, but the turns that they do that, they usually can't put enough on the attacker to clear the Basil. And then again, once they've done that, Basil now, the crackback from the Basil is so strong. even
I
if
don't
I am
agree that
attacking
they
with a
can't
fly.
put enough Dawn because I have a Yamato, and again here we're just playing One Piece, right? I have a Yamato. She has the base power of Basil
How much
Hawkins.
Dawn do you have? If
I
I'm in the mirror
play.
match, I'm playing this on turn 3. So you have 7 Dawn. You're gonna pay 4 for Yamato, and
I'm
then
gonna
your leader
play.
swings for 8.
I'm gonna play.
I can't out counter an
I'm
8.
gonna pay 3 for Yamato and then attach
You
the
Damn.
rest to my
assume that you
leader.
You can,
assume
but
you have one character.
you lose 2 cards for that.
You don't lose any cards for that. What are you talking about?
If he counters out
I think
of 8k, it was 2 cards.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
which is
yeah,
fine.
and
That your whole turn for me
the
to keep a Basil.
Kinnemon doesn't like have the same cards that Kid does because the curve is much lower, so you're playing a lot more cards than you're countering in your hand. You know what I'm saying?
But still,
Anyway,
like, this is
I
like the
think
third
this.
turn of the game. Look,
I think it's
Basil's
a good card,
good.
bro.
Basil's very good. I
Sure.
think Basil. I'm not saying play 4 Basil for God's sake.
No one's saying that. I
Uh,
think Basil is one of the most frustrating cards to play in the meta because it's going to get answered more times than it isn't. And again, like if I play against like a bunch of if I go to a tournament without Basil, I'm gonna and it's like I play 4 green matchups in that day. I'm like, oh, I wish I had Basil, but it just like I just feel like the other decks will be more popular, and that's a meta call, right? If I'm going to locals and I go, all these motherfuckers at my locals, they're playing Kinnemon. Shit, bro, I'm playing 3 Basils in the main deck. Fuck it. If I'm going into the regional, I don't. This is my call. I don't think Kinnemon is going to be one of the high choices in the first regional in America. I think people are just gonna go play red, whether it's Zoro or Whitebeard, and then they're gonna play a lot of black. Number one, and this is just my observation in the community, people are very excited about Whitebeard and they're very excited about black. They're tired of green. This is just my observation. Maybe you guys' is different, but my observation is they're tired of green. People want to play black and they want to play red. So like, I just don't think Basil is going to be the right meta call. Not the right card, but it's not the right meta call.
It's exactly like the 8-drop. It's exactly like the 8-drop Kid. I mean, it's not I don't think it's the meta call day 1, but maybe day 30 it probably looks a little better. And
well, when the meta slows down, we can just go back to the Kid leader, right? Because
exactly. I mean, that's true, and that's a different episode. But I think that you're right. People are excited to play the new shiny toys. They want to play Whitebeard because let's be honest, that leader's fucking cool. It has Ace, which is everybody's favorite card. It has 9-drop Edward Newgate, which is really fucking cool and actually plays with your leader in a different way than like no other card has done yet. That's insanely cool. Everyone's gonna want to do that. And then you literally have a leader named Smoker who's smoking a goddamn cigar and is playing a new color. Like, that's gonna be everywhere because people just want to do that. So you're right. But after enough time, people also just want to win tournaments. So they will go back to Kinnemon.
Slight errata on that. Smoker actually smokes 2 cigars.
Damn, it's even cooler than I thought.
Yeah.
Twice as cool. Look, Chesko, you just have PTSD. I'm sorry I always kill your Basil when you play it against me. My bad, but every time I play
it's
Basil,
not just
the card
against
like
you,
carries
bro.
the game for me.
It's not. It's like if you're playing a green mirror, then you're gonna want a Basil on your side of the field. That's fair, but it's like, it's like if you go to the simulator right now and you start up a random game I would say
got you scared, huh?
I would say 8 times out of 10 you're going to play against red or black, and Basil is just not gonna do shit because it's going to die the turn you play it or the turn after you play it. Like they can attack your Basil just as well as you can attack all their shit now too. So that's just how it is,
It's not how you use Basil. Basil.
I know you don't attack with. I understand that, but that's just not the case. It just dies, right? I understand how Basil works, and I'm telling you, this is this is one of the most vulnerable cards that you can play now, and that's just it is what it is. Okay.
He's the same degree of vulnerable as he's always been. Like Vista, again, it's a 2-card combo, and they need exactly Squidward or Ace because Otama does not put this in.
Yeah, which they always have because they drew fucking 20 cards. Like it is what it is. Now we're just playing One Piece.
It's 2-card removal. But
now we're just playing One Piece, bro. And the thing about Kiku is like if they don't use they can just let Kiku resolve her attack and then they can just attack the Kiku. Like they can do that, and then they can save their jet pistol for your other card, right? Like again, now we're just playing One Piece. Like I play my card, you play your answer. There's going to be games where they don't have the answer. There's going to be games where they have 3 answers, right? Now we're just playing the game.
I know, but what I'm saying is it requires 2 cards to answer. That's fine economy.
No, Jet Pistol is still a
That's a
card.
+1. Basil is a +1. If it takes 2 of your cards to remove 1 of mine, then that is good economy, and I'm okay with that when I'm playing a
No,
deck. When I'm
it's
playing a
not.
deck and I'm playing a deck that focuses on economy, I am happy to take exchanges like that.
They are not losing any cards in that exchange. They are developing cards to the field that have
Yeah.
effects that remove it. They're not
They're
losing a
developing
card.
3Ks,
No,
like,
it's a
against
5K
green.
and it's a 5K and a 7K because Moby Dick is a card, right? So Vista in Whitebeard is a
Well, now
5K.
this is 3 cards. No, you keep building this story. Now they've got this, and now they've
I'm
got
just
Well,
this, and now
playing
they
he's
got
playing the
Whitebeard.
game. Yeah.
I'm literally
I'm
just
just
playing
talking about
Whitebeard.
I'm talking about Basil Hawkins versus the removal that you said they had.
If
I've also
you
got things on my board too. In fact, I've already won the game, so I don't know why
No,
we're even
bro.
talking
Now
about this.
you play against Whitebeard and they draw the Whitebeard draws the most cards out of any deck, right? So they're just the most likely to have these cards. You know what I'm saying?
Anyway, this is just gonna go in a circle now. No, I think Basil Hawkins is great. Play 2 of it, just test it out. See if your locals is more kind of red, then maybe avoid the Basil Hawkins. If your locals is more green, then definitely use the Basil Hawkins. It's fine that Yamato taps him down. She is still a heavy Dawn investment when it comes to trying to attack a 6K. So if they don't have a 6K already established, it's going to be pretty simple to defend, especially if you have a blocker. And it's Basil Hawkins exists as a threat. Yes, there are answers to him. But if I play Basil Hawkins and my opponent does not have the answer, they play the game funny. And that by itself is good enough for me. If
I
they
can agree
have
with
the
that.
answer, they have the answer. But if
I
they
will
don't,
say,
and it is One Piece, so they might not. Go ahead.
no, I agree with that. I think the card I'm playing over Basil is 7-drop Kid. I think that's what I'm playing in its rake because it's just it's a little better against black because it takes, like you said, now we're talking about 2 cards of removal. And so like the thing about 4-drop Kuzan, right, is like I can clear that shit, right? Like that they're gonna play Kuzan, and I can most of my cards rest that, right? Everything except Nekomamushi rest Kuzan, and then I can just attack it. So I can get, and also X-Drake exists, right? So it's like I can get rid of 4-drop Kuzan relatively easily. So it's gonna be. It always means that they need 2 cards to remove 7-drop 7-drop Kid. Now, if those 2 cards are 10-drop Kuzan followed by Sakazuki, well, the game's fucking over. I lose, I guess. Like that, it is what it is. Black is like kind of hard for green. Like it is like.
Yeah. I mean, you can always bring up the worst matchup. Like I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
So when I'm building a deck, I'm just gonna I'm taking the concessions against the worst matchup. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make my deck worse against 4 other decks to make it better against a deck that I'm already losing to. So the argument against black is just unnecessary at this point. Basil Hawkins dies, Odin dies, 10-drop anything dies. It all dies. It's fine. That doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
matter.
I do like the 7-drop quite a bit. I agree. I like the 7-drop a lot, and the 7-drop is doing a lot of what you want your Basil Hawkins to be doing too.
The 7-drop is still very strong in the mirror. Like it's still a card.
7-drop is stronger.
Very good in
set
the mirror.
2.
One of the biggest.
7-drop.
Go ahead, and then I'll tell you why.
My issue with the 7-drop is it costs 7. The whole turn after Basil. I want my curve to be very specific. I want Kiku, I want Yamato, I want Basil, I want Odin. I know that's not going to happen every game, and I'm not going to pretend like it is. But if I'm not playing Basil and I'm playing the 7-drop, then my 6-dawn turn is just, I need a second Yamato. Or I need to have something like that. I was trying the 7-drop, I just didn't have plays on that turn. Turn 3, I just had nothing that I could really reasonably do to like build my board or put myself in a good position other than playing another Yamato.
Do you play X-Drake?
Which X-Drake?
The 5-drop.
Yes, I play the 5-drop X-Drake, but that requires them to have something already rested or me to have a Kiku. And X-Drake a lot of the times was like, I'm on 5-dawn because they made me go first. Now if I put, now I just can't get a card rested.
Yeah,
so I play X-Drake, but I I hate wasting cards like that. I'd rather it just be a
Yeah,
Basil.
just play it.
So I just think about how like the curve goes and the fact that I don't want turn 3 to always be dead. I at least want to have some kind of potential option.
I
in
don't know
that turn.
who you're playing against in this format where they just don't have cards rested. That shit is crazy. They just don't have a card in
I
rest
killed
mode on that
everything.
turn?
Dude, I killed
Ugh.
everything, man. Always. I played Nico Mamushi 2-drop. We're tapping everything down.
I do
Everything's
too.
dead.
I
The
Tell you,
whole
agree,
this is
club
the
is
bro.
turn
down.
where you go Momo, tap Momo, grab Momo, do it again, like that's
There
the
you
turn.
go. No, I
I
mean,
don't like
and then you're
using
set
Momo like
up
that. Momo
in
is
terms
a
of
kill spell. I use him to
against
find my kill spells when I need to.
against some
I
decks.
think
That's great.
I think there's plenty of ways to fill out the 5 turn, like the 5 down. There's plenty of ways to fill it out. We have
Basil. Fucking.
we have a ton of options to fill it. I don't like this argument because you're acting as if like there's no option when like you could
Well,
just
no, I'm not.
you can just play Rizo and leave 2 up for Punk Gibson and like that's a good turn. Like I don't that is like not debatable. That is just a good turn, you know what I mean?
But it depends. It really does depend. And like I just play Basil more. I don't think you've played enough Basil Hawkins.
Yeah, I played a ton of Basil, bro. It's fucking
I don't
this is
think
the
you
most
have.
frustrating card to play in the game.
Not
And
even as
I
Italian,
will
you're telling me he doesn't use enough basil.
I will make the one concession I will make to you, Subway.
Yeah, I bet your mother would say Basil's good.
One concession that I will make to you is that this fucking card also dies. 7-drop Kid also dies to Squad Vista, and it costs more, and it dies the same way. I will make that one concession to you, but I just think if we look at the meta as a whole, 7-drop Kid is better than Basil. That's what I'm playing in my deck. That's fine.
7-drop gets around Yamato. And one of the things that 7-drop was pressured by in set 1 doesn't exist anymore. No one's going to be playing blue. Like, you're not getting threatened as hard as you were in set 1. So 7-drop looks real fucking
Ivan
strong.
wins first.
Look,
tournament.
I could get all of those. You could play 7-drop against me all you want with Eva.
Yeah.
I am still going to lose that matchup. It doesn't matter. You are.
Right,
That,
I mean, you
Eva's
can-
the most free matchup for you.
Yeah, you can Doflamingo the fucking Basil Hawkins the same as you can the 7. Right? It's the same shit. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
but and then we still have to consider that Jet Pistol is still a card that is going to be played in Law, and it's still going to be played in Zoro, and that
some
at the very
Whitebeard will
least,
see it.
at the very some Whitebeard will play it. At the very least, they're going to need an Otama or a Gordon. At the very least, are they going to have it? Yes.
Yes.
But
Every
they,
time,
100%.
still
We stack those cards
still
together.
needs to do it. I just think if we lay out every single scenario in the meta, I think that the 7-drop Kid is in a better spot than the Basil. That's it. If we look at every scenario that could possibly happen, 7-drop Kid is going to come out a little bit better.
Maybe, but I do know for a fact that we spent like 20 minutes arguing about Basil, so we should probably move on.
And that's honestly, bro, like that's the number one question of the deck building. And I think we agree on literally everything else, and then we get to this card, and it's like, all right, now we get to talk about our discrepancies.
Not to end this whole segment with a pun, but to end it with a pun. I think talking about Basil puts seasoning just right on the podcast. So like, let's go. What's the next card?
I think that Basil is a very
we're
spicy.
Done. I don't care. I'm just kidding.
I don't think Basil is spicy in real life.
I think Basil.
Hey man, look.
I don't know.
In my barbecues, Basil's a lot of seasoning. All right. Let's go. What's the next card?
So I mean, outside of that and the 8-drop, there really aren't any kind of contentious options, right? Like you could argue 3-drop Killer versus
whoa.
Gibson's like the amount.
This is Nico Mamushi erasure. Come on.
I don't think that's an argument. That card's insane.
Yeah, I play that card. I don't. I've seen. Well, here's the thing. I've seen a ton of lists not play it, and my question is always like, why, right? And they
play Bonnie over it.
And the fucking answer I always get is, well, Ezo is the same thing now, and I'm like, no, because Ezo's a goddamn 2K in your fucking hand. I don't want to play that shit.
Yeah.
If I'm playing against fucking like Zoro, which I'm gonna play against, this card's really good. It's less good against Whitebeard. It's less good against
this
other
card
things.
is worth talking about at the very least. This card is worth mentioning. Because some people will look at this card and say, well, do we really want to play this now that we're playing against Whitebeard? Because this would be the only tapper that doesn't hit any of the characters that Whitebeard plays. So it is worth talking about.
It does hit some of them.
None of the ones that matter.
I think it hits
sure. Nico Vista. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, no, right. Vista already got its value. I agree. But I don't play it at 4 anymore. I think I have it at 2 right now because it's still just a really good card.
More of like a toolbox rather than something you need.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
No, I think 2 is a very fine number.
I lied. I have it at 3. I lied. I just put up my deck list. I lied. My bad. There's 3 of them
now,
whatever.
This reminds me of a real contentious point, Steven. Bonnie.
I still play Bonnie at 4.
Where are we going with
this? I play 4 Bonnie.
What is this?
Yeah. Bonnie.
I play 4.
Looks pretty bad
against
Eva. I hate you too.
Bonnie grabs 7-drop kid. He grabs X-ray. It grabs. Well, it also grabs Basil if you're playing that. So it grabs Punk Gibson. It's your new Momo, bro. Like
it's the Momo, right?
Yeah. But we still played Momo in set 1. Like.
Yeah, but we had to fill 50 cards. Now we actually just have a bunch of good cards. Testing this weekend with Bonnie, it was literally just Bonnie adding Bonnie. It was not
broken. That's awesome.
It was not great at all.
Broken.
Sounds like you got to do one of the best things you could be doing.
I had Bonnie whiff like it was a Momo. In the Kinnemon mirror match.
Momo, bro. What do you?
Sounds like you played 3 blockers for 3 Dawn.
In Kinnemon mirror match, the only thing Bonnie ever got was another Bonnie. We started ignoring them because it was just a 1 Dawn sync after a while. It wasn't doing anything. I originally had it in the deck. That's why I'm playing 1 8-drop because it was searchable. 1 8-drop kid. But I mean, the more I play it, the more I just don't like Bonnie anymore. She doesn't fit into the deck. You want to have 1 or less characters in the early game. Bonnie just kind of eats a slot. You want to, I don't know. I don't like Bonnie.
Let me tell you the exact reason we don't like, and I agree with you here, and I can tell you the exact reason we don't like Bonnie as much as we used to, because it doesn't search Law anymore. We used to play Bonnie, grab Law, play Law, pick up Bonnie, play some Rhizo. It didn't matter. Wow, that's the best fucking play we have in our deck. Play Shinobu, yeah. Best fucking play we have in our deck.
I've never played Shinobu.
Guess what? Weird. We don't play 5-drop Trafalgar Law. We don't play it anymore. It's not good in Kinnemon. It's not good. That's a fact, right? We agree with that, right? Okay.
I agree.
We play Bonnie, and you know what we do? We add Scratch Manapoo to our hand, and then they attack our Bonnie, and then we combo with our Apu. Guess what? In an aggro meta, I'm cool with that. I'm okay with all that. We add Bonnie, we play Bonnie, we add Punk Gibson to our hand, and then later in the game we Punk Gibson their Marco. I'm cool. I'm okay. I'm cool with that. It's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all.
I don't have any filters. Could you not reach that pitch ever?
I know, right? You got a real high pitch there.
No, I did it on purpose. I agree with you 100%. It doesn't feel good to play Bonnie anymore, and I will say straight up, in set 1, it never felt good to play Momo because all we're adding off of Momo is a fucking Nekomamushi most of the time. If you get a 2K off of Momo, you're happy about it, right? The best thing you could get was Kiku, and that just doesn't always happen. But now it's just like, okay, Bonnie, add Punk Gibson, go. Okay, you attack Bonnie. Okay, cool. I don't mind it. That's not bad for me. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. It's not. We don't have the power play anymore. There's no Bonnie, search Law, play Law, pick it up, play Rhizo. That feels amazing. I love that.
Your mid game is like controlling the board with Yamato rather than trying to do something aggressive with Law.
Yeah.
And another thing about the Bonnie. See, this is why I was playing Basil over the 7-drop. I hated Bonnie find a card that I can't play this turn. And that's kind of what she always came down to. It's like, here's an 8-drop. Well, I've got to go after the board this turn. I need to use my Dawn with this Kiku. I can't play this 8-drop this turn. Or I get a 7-drop, but again, it's same kind of problem. I just don't have the Dawn to spend like that to play it now. So my Bonnie has effectively added a brick to my hand. And my opponent is very well aware that one of the cards in my hand is in fact a brick. And what was worse is not only is it a brick, but it's a threat the following turn. They might go in. And if I can't handle a go in, that's I've kind of just incentivized them to put me on gotta have it when I don't got it. So
It's
I just don't
it's
like the
just
Bonnie. I
our
like
new
carrots
Momo.
over this card. Like carrot at least counters for 2. Like
Our new Momo, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I don't agree with any
Yeah,
of that. It's just it's
I
like
think it has a lot of play.
playing Momo in set one was unsatisfying most of the time, and now
was
playing Bonnie is unsatisfying. But
was.
just because it's unsatisfying doesn't mean I'm not cutting that card. I think, and I don't know how many Gibsons do you play. That's another thing, right? Like,
Oh yeah, you could play like 4 Gibson or maybe 2 Gibson, 2 Killer. It kind of depends on
yeah,
what meta you're looking at. Like
yeah.
And the more of
you
that
can
you
play
play, the
some
more
number of
Bonnie looks
Gibson.
good.
It's like I agree with what you said of like Bonnie doesn't grab a card to play. So like Bonnie grab Killer, play Killer, kill something is good, and then Bonnie grab Gibson, use Gibson. I feel is also good. You know what I mean?
I mean I hate Bonnie right now.
That's fine. I
I
mean,
hate Bonnie. I hate Momo. I would not play 4 Bonnie.
so we saw a lot of people cutting Momo down to 3 in set one because
Yeah.
it might be right to like that one extra slot could go to Carrot, right? Because we want another 2K in our deck. So we very well could see that switch where, okay, we're gonna cut this one Bonnie. We're gonna cut Bonnie down to 3 now in order to play like an extra Carrot or an extra like Punk Gibson or something like that.
Okay. Well, I mean that's a lot of really good conversation about Kinnemon this week.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yep.
Do we give it some time, see some meta results, and then do an episode on Leader Kid, which would feel very similar, but then we could kind of revisit some of these thoughts about which card choices are good in the meta. Because I do think the more you change the deck, the more Kid looks good. The more you change the deck, Kinnemon looks better.
I think
Go ahead.
I think our next episode should be either Smoker, Whitebeard, or Zorro.
Yeah.
Just
I'm
as we're
gonna-
still at the beginning of the meta, but
I'm going to be very honest with you. I would love nothing more in life than to do an episode on Smoker. I love that card. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yes, I agree with you there. Okay. I think Kid will top. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a guy right now who's like, damn, couldn't get any set 2 product in time. I'll just play my Kid deck and then he'll top. Like,
Well,
I don't again
against
like well,
mirror match, when your opponent has Yamato, the mirror is very difficult. So
Yes,
if the only card
it's-
they were able to get from set 2 was Yamato,
was Yamato.
I think they could beat everything. No problem.
I think so. You know, and it's like, you know, again when we're talking about a green mirror match, the Kid leader effect is so much better than the Kinnemon mirror leader effect. Like it just is. Like, you know, and
in
it's
the
like,
late game.
yeah, in the whole game. I mean, it's just better.
Well, that's what
Kinnemon
you're
in the
trading.
early game.
You're trading early game aggression for
late
late
game,
game finishing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's just it's fine. Anyway, like the point is, like, I think Kid is still a choice in the meta. I just think, again, we've said this probably 100 times now. The fact that you do things faster in Kinnemon is just better. Like we need cards to do more for less, and that's what Kinnemon has. More for less.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that was a really great 3-sword style from us tonight.
Onigiri. That card's good in Sanji.
Card is very good in Sanji.
This card is good and sealed. I don't want to talk about this part. I was
All right.
pulling it
Oh,
up.
Steel, I don't want to
something
talk
to
about
end
Steel.
No, we're not talking about Sealed at all. Fuck Sealed.
No, I'm not.
Oh,
I
man.
don't want to talk about.
Well, you guys
Sealed
just didn't
at
get to
all.
play it. I actually had a lot of fun in sealed. It was awesome.
Pre-release winner Smoker. I don't want to talk about Sealed, man.
No, Sealed. I don't give a shit about
Sealed is
at all.
awful. Awful.
Yeah.
Sealed was
On that
awful
note-
from 2 people who didn't get to play it. It was great. It was
I
actually
played
really
Sealed.
good. I had a lot of fun with it. So
I pulled an Odin in Sealed. You
you pulled no in sealed. That's pretty good. I pulled a Whitebeard, and the person across from me pulled an Altar Whitebeard, and he was like, "I think mine's better than yours." I was like, "I agree."
Fair enough.
Anyways, yeah, I had a good time with sealed. Speaking of what Deathwink, yeah. Anyways, I like that card.
All right. Well, I think on that note, we've kind of beat the Kinnemon horse to death here. So thank you all very much for joining us. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, just yeah. Thanks. We'll probably end up doing Smoker next. I think we're all excited for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Smoke 'em
there
up and
are
got 'em.
6 people watching right now, and I expect all 6 of you motherfuckers to like this episode and also subscribe to the channel. So, all right, guys.
Dang,
So from
6? That's like 6 more than we had last time.
well, last time we did. Last time it was a VOD, so good job.
All right.
All right, man.